Hi, this is Debbie. Welcome back to Cheyenne, Wyoming Urban Gardener. And I wanted to say a thank you to everyone who have been watching the last video that I posted about prepping and our new freezer, stocking the freezer, and going around and having a little bit of a tour of the storage areas in the house. We only began to touch the iceberg of the storage areas in this house because the house itself, I've not really mentioned this before. It's a Victorian home. It is on the National Historical Registry, so it does have quite a bit of storage area, even though it is a Victorian home. The home was built by a man named Sturgis, William Sturgis, in 1883. And when he completed the home, he only got to live in the home for 2 years prior to a very bad winter because he had purchased $2 million worth of cows to make himself a cattle baron. He came from New York City, built the house, had the cows, and lost them all in a winter that was really bad 2 years later. So he actually ended up selling the house within a couple of years after having it built, and it ended up in the hands of 5 other owners from that point forward, maybe even 6. We are really just now doing all the history and piecing the history together of the house. The records are not maintained as well as they should be, we'll say. So a lot of the information that I have gotten has been from the National Historical Registry area and from the archives here in Wyoming, in Cheyenne, Wyoming. So we've gotten that much information about the house. So it does have a lot of storage area. It actually had a lot of closets for a Victorian home. And here is just a little bit of when I come out of my kitchen door. This is the house that you see when you come out of the kitchen door. It does need painted right now, so please bear in mind that it does need painted. Weather here in Cheyenne, Wyoming can be pretty rough on paint, on shingles, all of that. But luckily we had a new roof when we moved into the house. They had just had the roof replaced at that point. We've had doors replaced on it. The kitchen door is new. Front door is new. We've had some door framings put in, all kinds of things all around the house. And we've had $4,000 worth of plumbing work done on the house for drains. And quite a lot of plumbing done throughout the house. And we use the house to live in. It's not a showpiece. We just basically, we live in the house. It's myself, my partner, my daughter, and my grandson that live in the house. And this is the house. There are a total of 9 bedrooms, possibly 10, and 7 bathrooms. A couple of the bathrooms are broken up. They're not really cohesive because they're old. And basically one of them is just a washroom with a sink and a toilet, or half bath as we call it back in East Tennessee. Here they consider that still a full bathroom. So it's just a small little powder room, if you want to call it that. And we have another quote unquote powder room right off of the kitchen, and it is just basically a toilet and a sink as well. We just purchased another toilet to go in there because we've been having some issues with that toilet. So we've got little bits of issues here and there. There's some renovating that's being done on the house inside, on some bathrooms and things. At the moment we're out here looking at the garden and taking a look at the house. Let me go ahead and I will show you the front of the house. All in all, the square footage on the house is somewhere a little more than 7,000 square feet, which seems huge, but the actual livable part of the house, because they consider all of the house pretty much square footage in Wyoming, the usable part of the square footage of the house is not that. Basically what you see of square footage for use of the house is what you see above ground. The basement is finished, and it does have the lab area, which I had shown you. And this is the front part of the house. It does have, I think it's 2 or 3 chimneys on it. I haven't really paid that much attention to the chimneys. But it's a big house. It takes up a lot of the land. So I'm just basically going to walk you around. You can see the land area. Of course, this area is a little bit dirty because we have our composting area over here, and this is where a lot of our broken limbs and things like that end up. The garden shed is right here. So you can see the garden shed. I just got some new tomato cages. We put them here in the meantime because we have a wheelbarrow back here full of branches and things where we're doing some cleanup. All of this will be disappearing very soon. We're going to have a trailer come in, be hauled in, or we've used one of the dumpsters where they bring them and haul them and sit them out and you fill the dumpster. We've had that before. It's fairly reasonable. We might do that, but this is that area, and that's just basically the compost area. Whatever is usable soil that has broken down at the bottom is what I will end up using, but a lot of this just will not break down. The humidity is very low in Wyoming, so it's hard for things to really break down. And these branches here have actually started to break down a lot quicker than most things. And then we have some of our tomato cages and some extra pieces here that we keep out in front of the garden shed that won't fit in it. And we have some leaves. We have been collecting some of the leaves. We got some broken fans back there that we got to clean up. And this is where I store extra pots and things like that. So this is the garden shed. It's just basically one room where we just put in some of our different things. I think that this was originally possibly a playhouse for the main house for kids, but it turned into a garden shed later on. There's some hooks and things that are on the walls where we hang some of our stuff. This, of course, is the garage over here right outside of the kitchen. It is a 4-car garage, possibly 6 if you had the availability to use all of the garage, but there is actually a wall partition in the middle of the garage, which makes it a little bit more difficult to have more than a certain number of cars. So we keep our kiddie pool in here, some tools. There's an extra desk in here, which we are waiting to get moved out of here. And this is where my daughter parks her car. And then we have bunches of benches and things that actually came with us that are part of the lab that goes down into the basement. A lot of people, a lot of the other family members store their bicycles here because they don't have room at their own places, so we've taken those in. We have a snow machine, or not a snow machine, but snow blower in here, our lawnmower, and we roast our own coffee beans. So we have a coffee bean roaster in here, and it's roasting coffee right now at this moment. And just little odds and ends all over the place that we keep in here. I've got a weed eater over here that I've never actually, one time I used it, and we don't really use it from there. We pull the weeds by hand. It's not that big of a deal because we don't have that much land. And this is my partner's car, which I haven't shown on video in the past. He has a Lotus Evora 400 that he purchased a couple of years ago. My partner is older than I am. He is 74. So he felt like that he wanted to have a sport vehicle. So he went and got himself a sports vehicle. He used to have a Lotus back in the 70s, and he wanted to have a Lotus again, so he went and got one. So a lot of people see this little car driving around in Cheyenne and enjoy it. I think one of the other YouTube creators I've heard has a Lotus Evora as well. Jeffree Star. I'm sure everybody knows that name. I think he has a Lotus as well. But like I said, we just keep odds and ends in here. Things that we can't really get out in the dumpster here because only certain things can be accepted. And we have pieces to the house. When we moved here, we actually asked the previous owners to leave everything in the garage that they could. We store our vehicle studs in here. So we have our studs there. And we do keep a bag out here for trash and things like that that needs to go out. And otherwise, the garage is clean. Only the upper part of the garage is actually that messed up. It's just stuff that we store in here for the most part, the rest of the garage is clean, sorted, and organized. We have a chair that we suspect was originally part of the house that we would like to get repaired, and haven't gotten that done as yet. But extra wood and stuff like that for the garage and the house and all that is out here. Extra bathroom vanities, all sorts of stuff. And then of course the previous owners had moved some things out to the garage, probably from the remodeling of the kitchen. So, and then of course looks like a medicine cabinet that was in a bathroom, but they decided to put it out here for storage in the garage. So we have that, and just little odds and ends that were left behind by the previous owners, and we're just trying to clean it up as we go. It's not a huge hurry. That's why we haven't just got in here and torn it all apart, but just a big garage. And basically that's what you're looking at as far as the land for the house. You can see the house takes up most of the land, garage takes up part of the land, garden shed another. So this is what is left for us to garden. It's still quite a lot of land altogether. So we have all of the garden here, and you can see we still have the slate walkways that are supposedly original to Cheyenne, Wyoming. So that is slate, not concrete, all through here. And see, as I was saying, we're cleaning up some sticks and things from where we took down the vines. And then this is the side yard, which basically wraps around the house. There's a flower bed over here, and it is mostly fenced with a wrought iron fence. And that is the rest of the house. Right there you can see another one of the chimneys, so it is 2 chimneys. So we basically have about 5 fireplaces in the house. And let me go ahead and show you the rest of the house. I don't think I've ever shown the entire house before on video. So you can see we keep wrapping around, and as I was saying, we're going to be converting these flower beds because they're actually bigger than the flower beds out front, and they kind of wrap around. And this is the north side of the house. But as much or as big as the flower beds are, I don't think it really matters anymore whether they're north. So we just keep going around. And this is where our conservatory is, and that's where our fish and our plants that are inside, some of those are kept, and some bookshelves. You can kind of see the fish tank there. And then, as I said, we wrap on around, and this is the actual back of the house. The front of the house is on the other side, which is basically we have 2 streets that come together. So we have this street here, and then we have this street here. And this is the back section of the house. This part of the house is on the west side, I believe. And unfortunately, it is so dark back here that it is very difficult to plant anything and have it survive. So this is actually kind of like the north part of the house, even though it's not. And a lot of people throw their trash out all through the city, and it ends up in our yard, as well as all of the leaves and any debris ends up over here. And we battle weeds and debris and all of that here. So not everything's picture perfect, and I show it like it is. So we've battled these bushes. They're junipers that are all out of shape. And unfortunately they cannot be shaped up anymore. They're just so badly in shape. So I am going to take these out. We've already removed 4 of the bushes. There was a lot of work that we've already done. And like I said, here's the back of the house. There's another living room here. We actually have 3 living rooms in the house, or a den and 2 living rooms, because this part was actually separated off as a mother-in-law's apartment. So you actually came into this was kind of like a kitchen, I think, and then it got converted into a den, and then there's a bedroom and another bathroom and a living room in there. So as you can see, this is the back section of the house. So this is the first part that we saw when we actually bought the house, was this back here. And let me show you the door that we had to bring the freezer in, which is crazy. And I've cleaned all this out already this summer, and it needs cleaned out again. But the door is actually about the height that I am. So you can see my hand right here. I'm standing right now just flat feet. And the door is not more than about 5.5 feet tall. I'm actually a little bit taller than the door, to be honest, by about 1 inch. So, about 5.5 feet tall. I'm 5'7", so there you go. And then I'm constantly battling the weeds and the tree roots and things like that coming up. So then on this section, we just have a parking strip here and another parking strip out on the side. We could, if we get requested from the city, use this part as part of the garden as well, but we have not, because there's some old trees that are here, but some of them are really bad shape. We've already had to remove one. One of them fell right before we moved here, and that one had to be removed. So they're not in great shape. They're old and they're basically disintegrating, so they need to be taken down anyway. So then you see we come back around to the herb garden, which has now become more vegetable garden than herb garden. But that's what the house looks like. It's very big house, but yet the rooms are kind of small, and basically is like a Victorian house. There's a lot of little angles to it, all kinds of things. But now we're back to where you see the container garden. And as far as the garden goes, everything is looking fantastic. We've collected more cucumbers today. I picked 3 more cucumbers off the vines. We're just about ready to pick another. You can see that one there hanging. We've got another one hanging over here. And we've got several more hanging in here that'll be ready in the next couple of days in the big pot with all of the vines. I actually took a lot of them and trellised them up, picked them up off the ground, so that way we're not running over them or anything. But as far as the main watermelons in here, the doll baby watermelons, there's not a whole lot I can do about this one anymore because it's just became so wild. Remember, I said the tame before the wild when it comes to summertime in gardening, and we're past wild at this point. I just basically try to keep the vines as much in control as I can, but like for instance, they mostly grow so fast now, it's very hard to keep up with them. You're looking at sometimes a foot of growth a day, even more on some of the squashes. And the cucumbers can grow equally that too with the right conditions. So it's kind of what's going on. But everything's still looking fantastic. We've got more cantaloupes now than what we had before. You can see the one hanging down there at the bottom. It is starting to get its webbing on it. And that's the Ball 2076 pot of cantaloupes. So there's 4 plants in there. So far we only have 2 really good cantaloupes in there, but there are some more setting on the vines, and hopefully they'll have enough time by whenever we get a frost or a freeze. We got a couple of watermelons in this one, and then we have 4 watermelons in these vines. You can see one hanging outside. There's 3 more inside. And we've got cucumbers basically setting on all the vines now. They're just so wild and out of control. Oh my goodness, just so many cucumbers. Anyway, and you can see some of the watermelons right there. These are the black diamond watermelons. And then we've even got cucumbers starting on the cucumber vines in the lemon tree. You can see the lemon tree right here. And a lot of new growth on the lemon tree. It's got some new branches. And we're trying to keep this guy as small as we possibly can. It's a regular variety of lemon tree that I just planted from a seed that we had from a store-bought lemon. And it is now going on 5 years old, so it'll hopefully start blooming soon. I thought for sure that it would bloom this season because it's very, very healthy lemon tree. But it has not bloomed as yet, so hopefully we'll get something soon. It is starting to get thorns, so it is a thorned variety of lemon tree, and that can happen. You can have thorned or not thorned. It's kind of a give and take what you're going to get. So that, and all of our tomatoes are doing fantastic. This guy is taller than 6 feet now. Crazy amount of growth on it, and loads of tomatoes on the vines, and it just keeps becoming more. Unfortunately, I lost a tomatillo plant yesterday, actually last night, to wind. We had a lot of wind last night. Look at that beautiful zinnia. The zinnia is a very, very dark red, but for here it's showing up kind of an orangey red. Another pink one. We had a yellow one today, but it got broken because of the wind. So anyway, we had a really bad windstorm last night and some rain, and one of our tomatillos, now we're down to one tomatillo left remaining in the garden. Fortunately, it had already pollinated a lot of its tomatillos, so we lost that one, and they were not big enough inside of the husks to amount to anything, so unfortunately we lost it, and we only have the one left now in the main garden. And hopefully it got pollinated enough that we will have enough tomatillos to take the place of the one we lost. And it really got whipped around in the wind as well, so I'm surprised it did not break. But you can see where I put the stake up against the wall because, well, I had to take it out of the ground after what happened. And I went ahead and pulled up the other two pepper plants. They were just suffering. I tried trimming them. I had done everything. When we first got them, they were not great. But I went ahead and got those pulled out. So I think we'll plant maybe some basil or something in this little area, or maybe some more lettuce or even radishes in here, just to have something going. But all of our tomatoes are looking fantastic. Got loads of tomatoes on them. All right, so loads of tomatoes set on the vines over here. We've got our super sauce tomatoes that are definitely coming on now. And let me show you one of those. They have gotten so much bigger. So I'm hoping we get some 1 to 4 pound guys in here. But we don't have very many tomato plants left after all of the windstorms and all of the issues that we've had this season with blight. But I still think we'll have a pretty good harvest of tomatoes, I hope. Crossing fingers, enough to can at least. We've got our old Germans that are producing now, and the giant ox hearts are starting to put their fruit on as well. And those plants have gotten so big, they're almost at the top of the trellises for the peas. So they're almost to the top of the trellises for the peas. We've picked more peas, we've shelled peas, so we've had a little bit more harvest on those. And our onions just keep getting bigger and bigger. Hard to see them down in there right now because this is the end of the evening and we're getting dark pretty quick. I've picked another half gallon of beans, and we've got another probably half gallon sitting in the vines right now that are just about ready. I did get some of the Royal Burgundy bush beans, and they are fantastic. I love them. So we may actually go ahead and grow those again. They take a long season because they're just now putting on. But we may go ahead and grow those again because they're just really tasty. Very purple bean. I'm not sure why they call them burgundy because they're purple. But our beans are almost to the top of the trellises and bushing out all over and blooming like crazy. Even the rattlesnake pole beans. We've lost a couple more rattlesnake pole beans in here. Not real sure why, other than maybe the dryness, and then all of a sudden it started raining. We had rain this evening, we had rain last night, so it could be that, but at this point the vines are so big and starting to produce like crazy. I don't think missing 1 or 2 plants is going to hurt anything. Our half runner beans have been constantly producing. Honestly, it's getting so wild in here with the beans, they almost look like kudzu vines in the south. Just kind of crazy. So it kind of reminds me of kudzu. Got more zinnias blooming over here that were not blooming the last time. And we've got zinnias over here next to the calendula that are blooming like crazy as well. They're not quite as big, I think because they're shaded, but these are the calendula, and then we have zinnias right here. They're a little bit smaller head, but they are so pretty. But I have loads and loads of pinks, and for some reason not very many reds, yellows, or oranges. So I'm not sure what happened with there, but I bought prepackaged seeds for those. The red curry vines have taken over the garden. As I said, they most likely would. They are just everywhere now. They've almost made it down to the sunflowers over there.
They kill off my okra?
They are trying to kill off the okra in here. We have an okra plant right there. It's kind of hard to see in the dark. That is trying to come on and produce something, but they have climbed the pea trellises everywhere. And they're starting to really invade into the peppers, even the bigger, taller peppers, but the peppers are still producing, still blooming, so doesn't seem like it's going to hurt them much unless it completely closes off any light that they have, but it actually kind of seems to be keeping them warmer. So the pepper plants now are halfway up the stakes, and those stakes were 6-foot stakes, most of them. So they're huge. They're just getting huge. And peppers are enormous that's in there, and they're just hanging in gobs now. And our zucchini plants are enormous. They have grown so much just today. They're taller even than the peppers are, and the cauliflower, but the cauliflower is huge too. Just seems like everything just exploded in the last couple of days. And you can see our cabbages back here. We've got cabbages coming on. My daughter turned on the light for us, thankfully. So we've got cabbages coming on in here like crazy now. Our red ones are wanting to produce. They're forming heads right now, so it shouldn't be very long once they start forming for them to get done. But you can see our broccoli is, I think we've got a head on one of them. I haven't climbed in here today because it's been wet and I don't want to pack the dirt down too much. So we've stayed out of the garden. I did get in here one time today through the peppers to get a green onion at the very back, which you can't even see anymore. But that green onion was so big, at least 3 feet tall for that green onion, and it was at least as big around as a mop handle. It was that huge, just a green onion, an evergreen bunching onion was that huge. So I'm very happy that I planted more. It takes about 2 years for the green onions to really be big enough to harvest here. One season doesn't do it, so we leave them all winter, and the next season they get huge, just like these did. So we planted more all along the back, which you can't see right now because they're really small. And next year they will be just as big as those green onions in the back. You can kind of see them a little bit right there sticking up. So they're about 3 feet tall. Our cabbages are huge. They don't look like it in the frame, but when you actually stand up next to them, they are huge cabbages. Even the fairy round Dutch ones we have that are supposed to be small. Daikon radishes and carrots are enormous. Just getting bigger by the moment, it seems. Every day I come out and it looks like that they're 6 inches taller. They're just huge and starting to form really nice carrots on them now, as well as the radishes. Lettuce is poking out there in the back, still looking beautiful. I've got lettuce everywhere at this point. All of our containers are looking amazing, which is too dark to really see them now. And we have pumpkins setting on the vines now, finally. So hopefully we'll get some pumpkins. I'm not sure if you can see. There's one. Kind of hard to see. Might be too dark. But we got pumpkins in there. We got a Boston marrow that has set on the vines. It's about 1 foot long right now. All of our beets. We've got beet heads in there. They're as big around as ping pong balls right now. Yeah, and it's starting to get really dark, so it's starting to kind of get fuzzy. But anyway, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notices on new videos as they come out. And I'm going to end this one because it's just getting so dark. Hopefully I'll get another video tomorrow when it's during daylight, and we will see you in the next one.